Welcome back to the Creative Journal podcast. This is entry 008, and today we have such a good episode that I am so excited to share with you guys. And her name is Jazzy Okami. Wait till you get a load of this girl. She is so creative, so talented, and I just had to get her on the show because her illustrations, she specializes in manga, anime, digital art, graphic design, some of the most insanely talented work I've ever seen, and I was so excited to get to know her a little bit. And she's just one of the most chill people, super humble, super creative, super laid back, super easy to talk to, and I certainly learned a lot, and I hope you guys do as well. So a little bit more background on Jazzy. She's an illustrator, graphic and motion designer based in Columbus, Ohio, soon to be moving to LA, so it looks like she's got to move on the books, so that's exciting. A CCAD alum, Jazzy works with 500 Degrees Studio in Columbus, and they work with a lot of national brands like Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Burger King, and they do a lot of super cool creative stuff. By the way, make sure you guys take a moment and check out her portfolio. Some of her digital illustrations are just that insane. I first saw, my first project of hers that I saw was the No Trace gaming mural in Columbus, super big project for this gaming company, and it looked super badass, so I had to reach out and we got her on the show, and I'm super glad that she was. A little bit more background: when she's not creating and designing, she does a lot of animated films and shows, music, video games, and she's just a super creative and bubbly person. So without further ado, welcome to the Creative Journal podcast. This is entry 008. Please welcome Mrs. Jazzy Okami. Welcome to the Creative Journal. I'm super excited to have you here. Can you give us just like a little bit of background on kind of, your creative journey? I know you're kind of in the Columbus area, but I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and can just introduce yourself, give us a brief highlights of your career.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Jazzy Okami. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, and motion designer, currently working at 500 Degrees Design Studio. It's an agency that does design work for brands like Popeyes, Tim Hortons, and Burger King. On the side, though, I do freelance. I do a lot of personal projects, and then I have a little collective group of my friends and my sister called Sunday Morning Art Club, where we do mostly murals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some of your illustrations. Your illustrations are like, I'm sorry, I don't want to like spend this whole podcast like fan about you, but, like,
Thank you.
your style is like it's super unique to you, and like it's
Thank
not
you.
it's not like manga anime. It's kind of more of a modern twist, and
Mhm.
it's really inspiring to look at. Like I kind of always struggled with kind of finding my own style for illustration. I've done a little bit of my background. I did more kind of brand identity, creative stuff, more of the kind of technical work. But so yeah, seeing your stuff is a big shift into a realm of creativity I haven't really pushed myself into. But it's super inspiring, and I'm gonna leave like a bunch of links to all of your work in the show notes and stuff because
Thank
it's
you.
a great place. So having such a unique style, how do you kind of work that into kind of the modern demands of like design, like to your agency? I know a lot of it, you guys do a lot of sweet stuff with, Popeyes and in the food and bev industry.
Mhm.
Tim Hortons, I've seen a lot of the stuff you guys do there too. How do you kind of incorporate your personal work, like that style, that unleashed creativity? How do you kind of like tie that back into a more corporate environment like that?
That's a great question. I think it's all about balance, and that's how I go about literally everything in life.
Hmm.
Just adding a little bit of your own flair to something. Just, you have to, I say you should be proud of your work, but also you need to please the client at the same time. And like, you can't just like do something that's so off brand and different that it'll scare them. You kind of have to give yourself time to like wean them into like something a little bit different. And then given time, they'll be more comfortable with more,
Hmm.
um, more bolder things or things that aren't exactly on brand, at
Yeah.
least at the time.
Hmm.
So I think it's a lot of balancing, and it's a lot of concepting too. Concepting is like the most important thing about like the final execution. I usually have a problem with like having so many ideas and then kind of psyching myself out because I think of the final product and like I look at my paper, my tablet, and it doesn't look like that yet.
Mhm.
But it's all about enjoying the process and just having that balance and working with whoever you're working with, your
Mhm.
team or the client, what have you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That was good. I kind of like overwhelm myself, I think, when you kind
Hmm.
of start to like look at the finish line and you see kind of how far away you are from where you want to be. And
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of have the faith in your own creative skills to like, yeah, I've done this before, I know how to get to from A to Z. But yeah, it can be scary, I think, especially when
Yeah.
you kind of, I know myself, I have a lot of that imposter syndrome. Um,
Yeah. Same.
like these people sometimes are trusting you to do something that you're supposed to be good at, and then it's hard when you're so far away to kind of see how all the pieces fit together in the future. But
Yeah.
but thank you. So I want to talk a little bit more about your background. I know you started in, I believe it was Virginia, I think.
I was born in Virginia. Yeah. I was born in Virginia and then I moved to Florida when I was 4 years old.
Yeah, you went Virginia because I was trying to picture on the map. I was like Virginia, Florida, and then like now you're back in Midwest, so you're in Columbus, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I'm from Springfield, Ohio, and I work in
Nice.
Marysville, Ohio, so pretty close. Um, I work at. Have you ever heard of Rudis apparel company?
Yes.
They're
I took a look at your site and work and you do good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. But yeah, I just started working at Rudis in Marysville, and I
Nice.
just trying to have this cure this insatiable knowledge for just trying to learn all about the industry and talk to people I
Yeah.
admire and want to be more like. So, and you would fall into that category if you haven't
Oh,
figured that
thank
out.
you. I'm so
But
flattered. Thank you so much. And
yeah, absolutely.
honestly, awesome for you because like never stop learning. Like this is really great to do
Mhm.
for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been like I had a Jeremy Slagle on the show last week. Um
Oh, I love
yeah,
that dude.
yeah. Oh my God, I was so nervous. Like you have no idea. I
Oh.
was like, he's like, yeah, I can fit you in like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I skipped my lunch break and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get all this set up in the break room. Like, okay, please. I told her like, please don't come in. Of course, I was walking in and out, getting food, doing other stuff. I was like, okay, but yeah, I was so nervous to talk to him. Like, I kind of grew up. I have hearing aids. I kind of grew up like taking speech therapy in classes, and he
Mhm.
gave me the advice to kind of say like, if it's uncomfortable, you should really like lean into that and try and pursue it long term. So I've been trying to really
Yeah.
try and embody that, not just in like design and kind of the projects I want to lean toward and take on. Like I'm rebuilding a portfolio. I'm trying to learn how to use Webflow and Figma and use that integration. And
Nice.
I'm sure you've done motion design and web design and stuff, but that shit is hard and it's hard. So, but
Yeah.
that's a discomfort piece. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. Like I pretty sure a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome more
mhm.
often than not. And like learning a new thing can seem very daunting, but just taking all of that like you have to trust the process. Like have fun in making mistakes because your first time doing something in Figma is not going to be great.
Mhm.
And that's like with anything, but you'll be learning. That's the most
Yeah,
important part.
absolutely. Do you I know I kind of asked a question kind of like in this realm, but
Mhm.
what are your kind of like learning processes? Because there's as creatives, there's like so much. There's always new software. There's always something else to learn that you can kind of add to your
Yeah.
skill set and kind of increase your product offering, so forth. But do you have kind of a framework you use when you're trying to like learn something new,
Oh
or is it
yeah.
just like dive in? Oh, let's hear it.
YouTube. YouTube is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've been lucky to have such a great motion design teacher at CCAD, which is
Mhm,
what the college I went to, Columbus College of Art and Design. I went
mhm.
there after I got my associates from Indian River State College in Fort Pierce, Florida.
Okay.
And she was great. But I did learn a lot of my motion design skills before that class just on YouTube
Mhm.
alone. Yeah. And I wish I could tell you I was the most patient person, but I'm not. So
Yeah.
I tried to like find like the quickest tutorials
Hmm.
first because I knew I
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
going to have the patience or the confidence to like go through like a 1 hour tutorial. And then I just did some baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm sure you can relate to this feeling. It's like opening up. I think the first time I opened up After Effects, I was like just seeing that interface, like all these buttons and all this layouts. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna test me already. But
Mhm.
I see what you mean. I've always led more towards I've always leaned more towards these shorter tutorials, like the
Mhm.
1 minute, 2 minute, like learn Premiere in 2 minute type things, as opposed to like the Skillshare classes are like, okay, we're going to take you through how to make your own original portfolio. And this chapter, we're going to do the heading. And the next chapter is like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're well designed courses like Daniel Scott, bring your own laptop courses like that, where he takes
Mhm.
you through the entire software. I mean, he's a great teacher, and that I can't imagine the patience it takes to make a course like that. But
Right.
it's probably um, modern social media has ruined my brain so much that my attention span is. But
I think I feel like for me, at least that's how I learn. Because with those short tutorials, and you just get that like instant gratification,
mhm.
like yeah, I did something, and then you have room to like try it again on your own with your own memory and like make it your own in a way.
Yeah, hmm
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to approach it, I think. But so, kind of fill me in on the gaps kind of your background. You started in Virginia. What motivated the move? And what have you learned? From moving from Florida back to Columbus, and how did you end up settling here?
Yeah. So to start off way back in the baby days, I was born in Clifton Forge, Virginia. My family moved to Florida when I was 4 years old, and
Mhm.
I stayed there for like most of my life up until my college days, where I took graphic design first for my associate's degree, and then I wanted to continue and finish up for my bachelor's doing digital media as my other major. But long story short, I moved to Orlando. I pretty much did online classes for Indian River State
Mhm.
instead of being in person. I worked at Disney World for a little bit, and then I decided to finish up my degree in Ohio.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah. I mean, there's some people talk shit about Cleveland and the Midwest and stuff like that. But I mean, I've lived here my whole life, except for a brief stint in North Carolina. But I've lived in the Springfield, Ohio area, 937, kind of my whole life.
Mhm.
And I went to University of Findlay for college, which is up near Cleveland, and
Nice.
then kind of made my way like halfway back down south to Marysville. And
Mhm.
I just closed on an apartment in Marysville finally.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm sure you know about this, but just the finding a place to live anywhere near metropolitan Columbus is just insane. So we ended up being on
Yeah.
a 3 month wait list, and I was like, first people that get back to me, I'm like, that's where we're going. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, just trying to like reach out and like I said, learn from all these people in Columbus because there's so many good studios. Just Columbus has so much going for it in
It
design. The
does.
CSCA. Um, Obviously 500 degrees, probably one of the best in the country. So can you talk about 500 degrees, kind of how you got in touch with them and all the cool
Yeah.
stuff you do?
Yeah. We're pretty quiet about our agency, I feel like, because we don't, I love CSCA, and as a student and an individual, I would attend the artist talks and stuff. But we don't really, we're just so quiet about things, I guess, and a lot of people don't really know about us and what we do, and it's
Mhm.
like it's kind of a lot. These brands
Yeah,
are pretty
well,
big, you know.
yeah, that's kind of, you have that contrast. It's like a little bit under the radar, and like, I mean, to me, you guys aren't small just because I follow like literally everything you guys do. Um,
Thank you.
but to someone on the outside, like they probably haven't heard of you, and
Yeah.
then you see like all these big campaigns with all these brands that you see everywhere, Tim Hortons and Popeyes and everything like that. So
Mhm.
What's that? What's it like working in a studio like that?
At first it was daunting. This is my first like adult big girl job.
Yeah.
Like I started out working at the student agency at CCAD first, and then after graduating, this was the thing. They were wanting a motion designer, and I got an interview, and everybody was so nice. Everybody's so talented. Starting off at first, they kind of wanted me to just experience the different offices that we have because we're not just here, we're in Miami, Florida, and we're in Canada.
Yeah.
So I kind of just got thrown into it. Like I wasn't expecting to go on like business trips like my first few months, and I was like, this is anxiety inducing, but it was really fun.
So you
Got
ended
to
up
meet,
going to the different
yeah,
wow, awesome.
yeah, it's a lot. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Just jumping right into it, I guess. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was nice to see the different places. And since I guess I kind of mostly am from Florida since I was only just born in Virginia, but being back in Florida was really nice. Going to Canada for the first time was really cool. I started off working in the Tim Hortons branch of things. And then after a year, I kind of just did almost everything. And depending on who needed me, like I would do some Burger King things and then I would do Popeyes things. So I got to like juggle the different brands and their guidelines and stuff, which is it's really cool because like each brand has their own personality and how they go about things. And then currently now I am a Popeyes girl, but I still help Burger King or Tim Hortons depending on if they need me. So.
Yeah, man, that's such a flex. You're just like, yeah, you know, I Popeye. If I have time, I go to Tim Hortons and Burger King. But yeah, that's really cool. I mean, having such big names like that is obviously good for portfolios and websites and stuff. But you know, when you're actually in the nitty gritty and doing that, it's I imagine there's a lot of kind of red tape as far as what you're able to share behind the scenes and stuff. But so cool. What's for you? What's the biggest? Do you have a different kind of approach you do? And we'll talk about kind of how you balance freelance versus agency because I know you do both, which is hard as I'm learning for sure.
Yeah.
Get home, like the commute right now. I'm living in Springfield, and commute to work is about almost an hour and a half each way. So
oh my gosh.
I'm looking forward to moving. Let's just leave it at
yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. So yeah, super congratulations on your apartment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. School used to be for me like going to school. I lived near Buckeye Lake, so the drive used to be like a 45 minute to an hour depending on the traffic. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, I know. It's like that sweet spot where it's like anything more than this would be just unthinkable, and then like anything less is like acceptable. So it's like the worst it could possibly be. But yeah, anywhere in that hour to hour and a half is just. But how have you found a way to put systems in place for and found the energy, you know, to do your own thing and keep that passion for it going and maintain those relationships and do all that stuff pretty successfully from the outside, it looks like, and to also kind of manage that with, you know, the position you have at 500.
Good question, because I'm glad it looks. I'm glad it looks all put together in the outside. That's like the goal. To be honest with you, my bedtime is like 2 a.m. every day. I try to take naps here and there, but I think it's really important to separate work from like personal, and I guess freelance is kind of like in the middle, but. Just because I have goals of like working in the entertainment and video game industry, it's a huge leap. It's still graphic design, but it's not food. So it's a little tough to get into, but that's kind of my happiness. And that's how I treat my personal and freelance projects. So I think it's less work. You know what I mean? Since I love doing that the most, it's not, I don't see it as like work.
Right, exactly. That's how you would fill your day if you didn't have the job during the day, right?
Yeah.
So,
100%.
Shit, I forgot. Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. No, have you seen like that meme where it's like, where they talk about people that are trying to balance like their work-life balance, when the design space will be like bad computer during the day, good computer at night. Like,
Yep.
but yeah, I feel that for sure. Like, and what I've tried to do is kind of implement. It's hard, but sometimes like we do a lot of design proofs, like communications with coaches and stuff, or what they want their team apparel to look like. And there's a fair amount of creative freedom, more so than I thought there would be for a step one job out of school.
Hmm.
But so they're pretty good about letting us kind of push the creative boundaries a little bit. And the cool part is like after the season's over, like I have to get clarification on it, but they'll let us add projects to our portfolio, like all the designs we did and stuff like that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, I'm really trying to like kind of bank that up and keep that in mind like throughout the day, because it's a very busy season. Like I don't know if you know, like wrestling season is when they get super busy, so they do like 5x more business in the last 3 months of the year than they do in the first 9 months. So
Mhm.
we're really trying to get like processes in place to like set up the templates and stuff to get proofs going, and like communication with sales and all that stuff. So it's a really back end side of design. It's kind of it's really taught me that I want to be more in the agency side of things, not so much in the sales and apparel side of things. But
Mhm.
so yeah, just kind of keeping that in mind. Um,
Yeah. What really helps is the crew you have and the company you keep,
mhm,
because I love my director at 500, Emily. I love my Popeyes crew. Like they're awesome. They're all just as talented and they do their own things outside of work as well. And just
mhm.
being in a place that lets you show your personality is really
Yeah,
nice. It's
yeah,
really helpful, especially mentally.
mhm.
So,
Yeah. You kind of feel like you're being valued a little bit more.
mhm.
See that, and you'll see a lot of things like more so from family. I've heard um, that your job isn't so much what you do, it's more who you do it with, which I kind
Yeah.
of agree with. I think there's definitely an aspect of both in there. Um, but I can't imagine doing something with like having someone breathing down your neck or being on super tight deadlines. But
Yeah.
have you ever had any kind of job that kind of realigned your priorities and made you think, maybe kind of like where I'm at right now, maybe like where you're thinking, okay, this is motivating me to work harder and maybe see that this isn't what I want to do. This isn't my kind of end game.
Mhm. I think it was Disney. Working at Disney World. I do, besides doing like part-time online classes for school, I worked two jobs. I worked at the Grand Floridian Hotel and I worked at Disney Springs, previously known as Downtown Disney, at
Mhm.
Ghirardelli, the chocolate factory. I was a barista there, and it was a lot. I mean, I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed easily. I'm autistic. I get overwhelmed really easily, and there's just a lot going on. And like Disney is such a busy place. I
Hmm.
lived 30 minutes away from work, but it took a lot longer to get there because of
Yeah.
all the
Traffic.
tourists and stuff. Oh my goodness, the traffic was terrible. So it was
Yeah.
just a big ball of anxiety every single day there.
Yeah.
What really helps though, like I gained the skill of like time management. I got pretty quick at like making orders and drinks, and that's
Hmm.
somehow helped me get faster at design
Yeah.
work at 500. And then just suffering together with the big crew helped a
Hmm.
lot too, because like you're in this together, you're in the trenches together, you don't feel so alone and everybody has each other's back. And that's something I really value in the workplace for sure.
Yeah.
So
It's kind
I
of
was
that.
like, I can do this if I did more of what I liked.
Right. Yeah. Just like imagine like, I've heard, I think it was Joe Rogan said like if you're this good at something you hate, imagine if you're applying it to something that you're
Hmm.
good at, you have passion for, just how
Yep.
much more growth that could lead you to.
Yeah.
I think it's on all of us to kind of find that, it's failing forward a lot. It's kind of doing the wrong things and then using what you can to kind of apply that to get you on the right direction. And
Mhm.
um, I think that's really a really useful skill to have in the creative industry. So,
Oh yeah.
thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I want
no problem.
tell me about kind of your brand. Like, I know your favorite animal is the wolf, and you've kind of embodied that brand. Can you kind of talk about the inspiration, maybe to
Oh yeah.
where that factors in, and what your inspiration was, and kind of what led you to the creative style that you do in your freelance work?
Yeah. So Okami is Japanese. That means the wolf, as you know.
Mhm.
Um, it's also one of my favorite video games on the PS2. It's an amazing game. I think it's underrated. I think everybody should play it. It's the style is like a traditional Japanese painting. To get around the world, you have to use your tail as a brush and ink to like if you want if you want it to become day, you draw a circle in the sky and then that's the sun. If you want it to be night, you draw a moon. And if you want to slash somebody with a sword, then you have to draw a line across their
Mm,
body. And
that's what
I thought that
yeah.
was it's awesome. It's a really cool game. And you play a wolf, the goddess of the sun, Amaterasu, and it's all based on Japanese folklore. And so I'm a big video game fan. Um, my logo came from a school project that it's an elevated version of that. I wanted to represent one, the wolf, kind of like a brushstroke, but also like a wave because I'm a Cancer. I like water. I don't know. Blue is my favorite color, and that's why that's my
Yeah.
brand color. And it's
Mhm.
cool because like this name is like close to my brand color that's shown on the screen, so
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's that. It's a lot of meanings,
Mhm.
but also the wolf can like fend for itself. There's like that lone wolf saying, but also they do well in packs. So like a lot of the time in school, I would like sit on my own, kind of like on purpose, because I
Mhm.
wanted to. Somehow my brain thought like if I sat alone, then I would be more available and open for people to come talk to me.
Yeah.
And then when it came time to do like group projects and stuff, it was a really great experience for me just to learn about other people and kind of just become friends with my fellow classmates. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I can super relate to that last part. Like, I was definitely I don't define myself as an introvert because I get energy from talking to other people. Like, having these conversations is far and away the best parts of my day, a lot of days. But I
mhm.
think naturally throughout my day, if I don't keep a conscious tab on it, I find myself being really reserved. And if I go through the whole day just kind of, head down, executing, not really thinking about making the day the most of what it could be, talking to other people, and I have to consciously kind of try and make those connections. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I always like to ask people kind of about their logos and their branding, because you ask designers, there's always there's some layers to it, as there was with you.
Yeah,
So
it's funny because during that project, I had the toughest time because I was overthinking it, and
mhm,
I believe it was Full Metal Alchemist. I was watching anime while I was trying to do my homework, and I was trying to doodle this darn logo design project, and I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I just drew like a swish tail and then like a wolf head, and I'm like, oh, that's something.
yeah.
And that's how it came to be. And that's on not overthinking things all the time.
Yeah, that's how like 90%. I haven't done a ton of logos, but just getting started, I've done like 4 or 5 brand identities, and the whole time in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not getting anywhere, and then you make this one thing, and you're like, okay, that's kind of it right there, and
Hmm.
then you never really reach that point where you're like, I got this figured out, I'm good, but it's just you kind of hit that one thing that motivates you to keep going, and then you just kind of feed it. But a lot of it for me is like a lot of negative self-talk kind of throughout it. But that's kind of something I wanted to ask you about too. Do you ever kind of fall into because I know it's very common with a lot of creatives, especially young ones like
Hmm.
myself, they the comparison trap, because there's so
Oh
much
yeah.
availability, and
Yep.
then because I'll be like looking at Behance or something, and like that
Yeah.
14 years old kid from India or
Oh
something like
my
that, of like
goodness.
the most
Yep.
insane animation and design. I'm like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do? But
Exactly.
but yeah, how do you kind of use that as inspiration rather than a sense of defeat? And how do you try and kind of balance that and just kind of deal with that thing that can be a dark hole sometimes?
So how I go about it nowadays, because I do suffer that problem a lot. It's a lot less now. The older you get, the better it gets, I feel like, because you realize you're on your own path, and just not being too engulfed in social media and things like that, because everything's just so fast and you feel like you're just not that productive. But in all honesty, I hate wasting time, and doing that is such a big time waster.
Yeah.
And reminding yourself that is important, but also in the kindest way possible. Like, you have to be nice to yourself when you're showing yourself some tough love, because you are your worst enemy. And I've put myself down a lot, and it's mostly me that
Right.
does that. So just doing what makes you happy. I started the Artist's Way, which I recommend everybody do. It's a book
Mhm.
that has exercises that helps you with your creative process and like kind of stray away from artist block.
Okay.
Um, you
So that
do
was called
little
the artist
the,
way.
the Artist's Way, yeah. And you do like little activities, journal entries, and you take yourself out on artist dates, which I realized that like I don't do. Like a lot of the time, I think ever since like COVID happened, like you graduate, COVID happens, and you're at home and you can't go anywhere. I don't take myself out a lot. And
Hmm.
doing these artist dates has been great, just like going to a cafe and drawing on your own, like people watching and observing, doing little exercises like that, or going to the bookstore. Just self-love is so important, because like you
Yeah.
said, a lot of creatives put themselves down a lot, and they suffer from imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
or self-deprecation. And it's tough because we have a lot to share with the world, and we stop ourselves from doing it, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's I think that's really relatable for sure. That was really
mhm.
powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what's kind of some of the biggest differences you see in working for a big agency? I mean, not like huge, but a bigger agency like 500 as compared
Mhm.
um, to freelances. I imagine it's a lot more fast paced. I know we kind of touched on it
Oh, yeah.
already, but do you think that do you think that fast paced nature kind of inspires your creativity? Does it energize you, or is it like a draining thing you kind of have to separate yourself from to get work done?
You have really good questions.
Thanks.
I think it depends on what's going on in the project, I feel like. Because
Hmm.
one huge factor working at an agency, there are a lot of middlemen. There are a lot of people that you're working with. Freelance, you work with a client more often than not, like straight away. You don't have to go through anybody. But there's at agencies, there's a process, the string of emails, doing the kickoff, setting up the brief, making sure everybody has all the layouts, all the correct sizes, doing the concept and getting the right photos, doing the photo shoot, and then retouching. There's a lot going on, and depending on if you're nailing it right away, it feels good.
Hmm.
But when you're not, and you're trying to get stuff out the door, it is a little draining.
Yeah, I can imagine. I kind of experienced the same thing. Like we're nowhere near the same size as you guys, but I kind of find myself like, yeah, all this feedback, all this interaction, all this inspiration, all the murals on the wall, the photo booth, the fancy cameras, the gimbals, the um, all this stuff going on. It's great, and it can be overwhelming if you let it. But then I kind of have to find myself. I have to kind of like you kind of said, making time for yourself. Like
Mhm.
I feel like the real work gets done, when the headphones are on, metaphorically or you know actually, and you're
Yeah.
just kind of you're kind of working through the problems by yourself. And I think creativity is kind of a balance between those two. You
Mhm.
take in the inputs where you have all this great stuff, the agency, the life, the glamour, and everything. You kind of take it all in and download it, and then you can go off by yourself and then kind of manifest that into whatever project you're doing.
Mhm.
But What are some projects you're working on now that, whether it's freelance or whether it's, your agency, that have you like really excited? That I know some projects are hard to get excited for. So what are some projects that either you're A, excited for, or B, you're making yourself get excited for? Mm.
So work wise for 500, I can't say exactly what it is, but there's like a collaboration Popeyes has been working on that I'm really excited for.
Are we gonna see a Travis Scott burger or something like that?
No,
Yeah.
but it's something fancy.
Okay. Be on the lookout.
um, the Speaking of Travis Scott, something related. Probably one of my favorite projects to concept for was like the Megan Thee Stallion hottie sauce. That was really
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
But outside of that, we're currently doing a mural at the 934 Gallery for the 934 Fest that happens annually.
Yep.
This will be our 5th year doing it.
Okay.
And this time around, we typically take turns with like concepting and leading. And this time it's my sister doing it. And
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I'm so proud of her. She's doing great. The concept is great. It's
Mhm.
essentially, it's not the title. It might be the title, but the gist is giving somebody their flowers.
Okay.
And the subject is this beautiful Black woman with an afro with florals and greenery around her and just looking very serene. And it's something original. We typically do like fan art besides the no trace one, which was really great. That was one of my favorite projects to do with Smack in general, just because it wasn't fan art this time. We got to concept for it. We all came up with our own concepts and let the client choose which one they liked. And it was probably one of the biggest walls we've done so far. And it was something involving what we all loved, which was video games.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet that was a really fulfilling project, knowing your background with video games and kind of getting to put that. That was a pretty big project. That was a lot of people involved and a big space. And that's a very different style from what I imagine doing now. Very graphic, very bright, very attention grabby for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys nailed that one for sure. So if the one you're doing
Thank
now
you.
is anything like that, then I think it's definitely something to be excited for sure.
Yes. September 8th, I believe, is the fest.
Okay.
Yeah, 934 Gallery down Cleveland Avenue, basically 5 minutes away from CCAD. Happens every year. So if you can't make it this year, definitely try going next year. It's a small gallery. It's really fun. You sign up for it. A bunch of muralists from beginner, intermediate to like professional get to they get assigned a wall and then they just do whatever they want, pick their own concept and stuff. And it's the whole perimeter, the whole area. So it's like, I don't know, probably, I want to say over 20 muralists, maybe.
Oh, dang. Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's going on the calendar, September 8th.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. So one more thing I wanted to ask you was about your mistakes that you think, not to put you on blast or anything, but like I said, I'm trying to learn, and a lot of our audience is kind of young, aspiring creative. Some of them entrepreneurs, some of them looking to, make a career out of doing a thing they love,
Sure.
which is what we're all trying to do, I think. I hope. And what are some mistakes that you've made? I like to call them like kind of your favorite mistakes that, not just informed like your career direction, but more so like and just that gave you valuable feedback, basically, like I don't want to go this way and I do want to go this way, and this was helpful for me.
Ooh,
It doesn't have to be like just one single instance, but
I think one big one that kind of correlates with everything we've been talking about with overthinking and imposter syndrome is not asking for help. I think that's like my big mistake, because not asking for help or like asking way too late just because you feel like you can do everything yourself.
yeah.
A lot of the time at work, whenever I'm done, because I'm fairly speedy, I ask the group, does anybody need help with anything? But I don't typically do that myself.
Hmm. Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
should. You should be comfortable asking for help and asking all the questions, because otherwise you're going to be stuck. And
Yeah.
I feel like certain things, certain projects, certain events in my life took longer to come around because I was too shy or afraid to ask, you know?
Mm. Yeah. You strike me as someone that's like really technically skilled. So that can kind of have this positive and negative. I feel like A, you
Hmm.
get done super fast, but B, you have the drawback where you kind of embody the personality of like, this is what I'm good at. It's hard to
Yeah.
admit sometimes when you get overwhelmed, because as awesome as you are, I mean, you're not Superman, right? So you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And it's asking for help is hard, because especially when it's what you do for a living, and you're passionate about it, and you go into work every day wanting to be the best you can be. But
Hmm.
I think seeing it as not a sign of weakness, but as a sign of wanting to get the job done to the best it can be done.
Hmm.
And that usually involves bringing in more people. So
Hmm.
um, thank you for sharing that, though.
Yeah,
That's
no problem. Like I said, the older I've gotten, the better person I've become all around. Like, I ask more questions. If you don't get something, you gotta ask, and you can't assume that you can figure out on your own, because it's
right.
just so much easier to ask somebody who already knows the answer.
Yeah.
And let's say you can multitask and you can get everything done, to what cost? Like
Hmm.
sleeping for like 2 hours and then having to wake up the next morning. Yeah,
Mm.
it's not worth
Right.
it. It's not good for your mental health. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. And especially like with me, that's coming out of this commute. It's been uh, 10 weeks I've been working this job now. Most of that has come out of sleep. I'm trying to do everything, and like I said, keep that passion for doing your own thing, because I think having that passion for doing your own thing is why you got into it in the first place. And
yeah.
if you can't kind of have that as a frame of reference, I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you kind of don't have that thing to look forward to at the end of the day, that's like um that's that design, that's your own personal thing, then um it's hard to kind of motivate yourself in a lot of other areas. But
Oh yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And you have to expand your your I forgot what the term is, but your inner library, your internal
yeah.
library. You have to consume the things that you enjoy, and it doesn't always have to be a personal project, working on a personal project every day. It could just be whatever you like, whether you like watching anime, playing video games, listening to music, sports. You have to have that moment's reprieve from the hecticness of your job.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, very important.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
um One more thing I wanted to ask you about, and I try to ask like all successful people that I want to be like this. What does a normal day look like for you? I know every day is different, but kind of from start to finish. So like, not yesterday. I usually say not yesterday, but the day before. What did that look like? Kind of from.
Yeah, routine is very important to me. Like getting up on time, getting ready for the day, having my tea, having my breakfast.
Mhm.
Um, I work hybrid, so some days I'll stay home and some days I'll go to the office. When it's a home day, same thing, doing that routine, getting my breakfast, because you got to eat. That's really important. I feel like college
Mhm.
has like taught us really bad habits. I had to wean myself off of coffee when I got this job. It was torture. It was terrible. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, why is this so hard?
yeah.
Um,
Do you have any strategies for that? Um, I did a tapering experiment,
mhm.
so I've so I kind of dive into these things like more than I should, but I had the same problem, like caffeine, and what I found and what the research says, I don't know if this is total BS or not, but you can kind of, if you keep track of how much you have, and you kind of find your
Mhm.
threshold to where you can sleep okay. And it's a lot of trial and error. But like I
Mhm.
found that if you can kind of measure, and it's hard, caffeine is hard as hell to measure nowadays, especially I
Yeah.
learned a cold brew with nitro cold brew at Starbucks is 600 milligrams. Like
Mhm. Uh-huh.
that's how they get you going back, because then you go a day without it and you're just like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah. And
Um,
in college, it was a lot of it for me, and I'm sure most people, ramen noodles, a bagel, and just
mhm,
a bunch of coffee all the time, pulling all-nighters, having coffee. And I think to start off, I feel like I have really good self-discipline, so that helps a
mhm,
lot. But starting to drink coffee only in the mornings, not
mhm,
all day, every day, I'd
yeah,
kinda get off before lunchtime. That's how I started, and then I went cold turkey, and I found that was really terrible. Then I
yeah,
switched to tea, which is good for you, healthy, good for your
yeah.
metabolism, and so I'll go back and forth every now and then
Okay.
now.
What
I have
kind
a
of
healthier relationship with it right
yeah,
now.
good. What kind of tea do you like? I know I want to try. Um, there's so that's I'm excited to get into this because there's so many different kinds. There's your
Mhm,
um, dark tea. There's yerba mate, which I really want to try.
mhm.
There's chai. I really like chai. What's kind of your go-to?
I love all those things. I love tea in general, but my go-to every single day is green tea for the day, and at
Okay.
night to help me sleep, because this will help you sleep, green tea with peppermint.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's kind
and
of
then matcha. Matcha's really good too.
matcha. Yeah, matcha's the goat. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Matcha's hell expensive though.
I
Really,
know.
I don't know.
It is. But it's
Like,
so good. I it's funny because like you either like it or you don't. And
right.
it's the people who don't like it. I'm like, I love the taste of grass. This is my grass drink. It tastes
Yeah.
so good because it
Uh,
does taste like grass, kind of.
yeah.
But I don't
Smells
know.
the smell. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I know. Some people they have their things, and like you can't like. It's like okay, you enjoy your grass or whatever. But so sorry, we kind of got off track there. So you
Oh
have
no,
the
you're
tea.
good.
What's next?
I'll open up my laptop. I'll check my emails, make sure everything's good to go there. I'll check on my group, making sure everybody's solid, that if they need help or if my director needs anything from me. And then if I already have a project going on, then I'll just continue to do that.
Mhm,
Uh, do any scheduled meetings or kickoffs. I'll take a little bit of a break. We get an hour lunch break, so
mhm.
I'll utilize that because I don't take a full hour to eat anything. So with whatever time I have left, I'll either like watch something on YouTube, watch anime, read whatever I'm reading at the time, or play a little bit of a video game like Mario Kart's pretty quick and easy. So I'll get that out. I'll get those frustrations
Yeah.
out on Mario Kart. Um, then I'll continue my day, and we typically end work around 5:30. And after that, I'll either, if it's a rest day, I'll continue doing whatever I like to do besides prepare food to eat. Or if it's not a rest day, I'll go to the gym right after work.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds like very balanced, I would say. Um,
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard at first. I'm
yeah.
not gonna lie, because I feel again, college really kind of exposes you to really bad habits.
Mhm,
And when you're in college, you walk a lot.
mhm.
Like I walked a lot, and then once college stopped, I realized I wasn't fit. I was like,
Right.
my stamina was just like so low without coffee. And I'm like, I
Mhm,
need to exercise. Like I have to like leave the house. I have to do something. And
mhm.
gym time is honestly, at first it was really daunting just because of people in general.
Yeah.
But after once you get those earphones in, it's just like it's really therapeutic, honestly, because
Right.
you
Absolutely.
get into the zone and then you just do whatever you need to do, get a sweat out, and you just feel so much better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the delayed gratification. It's so much easier to go through your day without doing something hard like that. I did personal training in college,
Mhm.
trying to because my major was actually strength and conditioning, and I
Oh.
realized, yeah, it's total, pivot there. I had
Mhm.
I kind of always had this misconception that design and creativity, whether or not I had done it my whole life, I always got a lot of affirmation from it. I was always, Andy's the artist. Andy draws, he journals, he does all this creative stuff. He's the creative person. Um, and I never thought that was a career. Like I was very motivated on trying to get into a health profession, something that was a little bit more stable like that, I guess was my
Yeah.
misconception. And then what I realized is, what you do is what you make it, right? So kind of
100%.
not kind of leaning into that a little bit, getting my first job and trying to learn as much as I can and trying to follow that path. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
so much you can do with design, and that's something I'm with you. That's something I had to learn because my parents were like, either you're gonna be a doctor, or if you're gonna do anything creative, you should probably be a singer or someone famous. And like, I don't really want that.
yeah,
I like to draw. I was a
uh,
doodler in school and stuff. So I once I found out that you can indeed have a stable career just designing and illustrating, like doing all these awesome things that without it, like where would we be without art, you know?
mhm,
It's cool to just be a part of that community and contribute, in
mhm,
your own way. It's just such art and design itself is just so vast. There's so many things that you could be needed for,
yeah.
So I'm glad you found your path, honestly.
Mhm. Thank you. That means a lot. Thanks. I've and kind of on that thread, you say there's so many kind of different places where designers are needed.
Hmm.
Would you recommend? And this is kind of a debate. There's kind of two sides to this, and I can kind of see it from both ways, honestly.
Hmm.
What do you think is the value of finding what you're good at and focusing on that a lot, and becoming like a subject matter expert, pardon, in that thing
Yeah.
versus using all these vast resources, YouTube Skillshare, YouTube University, all this to become the most um, you know Swiss Army knife of creativity, so to
Yeah,
speak.
like a jack of all trades
Yeah,
almost.
jack of all trades, master of none type thing.
Yeah. That's a really good question. Like you could ask me these questions all day, to be honest. I
Mhm.
had this conversation with my friends on Discord because we like to get on Discord whenever we play video games. So we had this conversation, and I've come to the conclusion that like you you should keep learning. All it just depends on your intention and what your purpose is.
Mhm.
Don't try to like consume all of this stuff and just get overwhelmed just for the purpose of, I don't know, impressing people or for clout. Do it with a purpose. Like if you have a project and you want to reach out to somebody, let's say you want photos for your personal project and you don't feel like you're a good photographer and you have a friend that does, you can learn from them, or
Mhm.
wherever you would like to consume this information. um, it's I guess it's where your brain's at.
Yeah.
You have to do it
Yeah.
for yourself. Do it for yourself, do it for fun,
Mhm.
and do it to share your own knowledge. Because
Mhm.
I I'm a firm believer of like giving people a piece of the pie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not keeping it all to yourself, but to also share your knowledge with other people.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good answer. I think that some people enjoy the, I don't want to say enjoy, but they are more comfortable with the discomfort of trying something new for
Mhm.
the first time, and it's stimulating.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sticking with it is the harder part. But
Mhm.
also, I think the biggest kind of flex is when you market yourself as one thing, like say for example, I do logo design, brand identity, and you get really good at that thing, and then you also have some other things that you are service level at that kind of are in conjunction with those things. Like,
Mhm.
say you make the identity, you make the logo design, you can do the mock-ups, everything like that. But then they want some actual photos, and they want to outsource. Like, oh, if you the biggest ROI is not when you market yourself as that thing, but when you have it that it can be used in conjunction with the thing that you're actually good at. And
Yeah.
it's kind of hard because not every project is the same in terms of what supplementary skills benefit that thing.
Hmm.
So, like I know I gave a really clear cut example of something like a brand identity, but that's why, yeah, I think it's kind of finding a balance of both, kind of where your head is at. I think is a good answer.
Yeah,
Um,
because you can try to learn something just to check a box, but
mhm, right,
that's I feel like you're just gonna half-ass it if that's your only reason and your only purpose, just to do
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, half-assing, it's not great.
yeah.
You have to do it with intention.
Right, you have to check yourself on that. I know I do a lot. Like I literally did I did the I wanted to become an Adobe certified pro,
Mhm.
which is literally 3 words put together and that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's cool, I added it to my resume and I kind of had this back. I was like, okay, Photoshop is like really close to my heart. Like love Photoshop. I know how to do everything in
Mhm.
there. Not everything. But I know how to do Photoshop. And that's kind of a big part of my reputation and I kind of embodied that. And I was like, okay, I kind of want to get the certification and then just kind of like verify that to myself. And by the way, like Adobe, their test certifications are the biggest pain in the ass. Like you have
I heard.
the first time they outsource their customer service just and the help desk it was such a I ended up
It's
sitting.
troublesome.
Oh my god, it's horrible. I don't know if you had any experience taking like tests like that, but it's the I ended up like sitting down and basically the proctor never started the test and that happened 3 times. And I ended up getting it for free though. So I really had
Good.
to I really had to play, wounded child on the phone to try and get that. But anyway, I'm just glad that's behind me. But yeah, that's anything else you would want to share with kind of young creatives, designers. I know we've been going for a little bit, and you've gave me a lot to think about. I can't wait to kind of get back to editing and taking notes and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would want to say to kind of maybe a younger version, not of yourself, because that's kind of stereotypical, but to maybe a young creative, maybe someone that wants to feel secure in what they do, someone that's looking for kind of some direction. Are some practical tips that would kind of give them to give them a sense of direction?
If you see something that you like and you have just this fleeting thought of like wanting to do that thing, don't say, "No, probably not." Ask why not? Why
Hmm.
can't you? Why not? Try it
Hmm.
out. You never know. You never know. You might find your passion there. Um and also, like I said, ask for help. Just consume any and all information that you can, not because you're in fight or flight mode or in desperation, but because you want to learn and you want to be the best version of yourself in any and all fronts, whether it's for your career or your health or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's wow. That's really good. Thank you. Um,
Also,
yeah.
laugh. Laugh a lot. Don't take yourself too seriously. Like, I feel like a lot of students, and I was in this boat too because I was a student as well. I feel like a lot of us come into like these buildings and we're like, oh, I already know this stuff. Like feeling
Hmm.
that you know everything and that you're invincible. You're not.
Right.
Um, you got to be accountable. You got to be self-aware. And I feel like once you're in that place, you learn to like yourself more and laugh at yourself more.
Yeah. Well, I feel like
'Cause-
I'm one of those people, like, I feel like I have the ugliest laugh in the world. So it's like,
Aw.
I kind of grew up like, okay, I'm going to keep this under wraps. And if sometimes something like super funny will happen and it'll slip out. And it's kind of like one of those things where everyone will notice. I'm just like, oh God, I hate myself. But
Aw.
I see what you mean though. Laughing is powerful and just
Oh yeah,
kind of
for
having
sure.
that mindset I like to say I laugh in my head a lot. So I'm a happy person,
Oh
but
yeah. You have your own little inside jokes and stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, it's really important. I always hated I hate my voice in general, but like I always hated my laugh. But yeah,
yeah,
you grow to like it a little bit more once
yeah.
you get older and more comfortable. And sometimes not sometimes, a lot of the time, especially if you're like a young creative going through school, working a job that you do not want to work, but you have to get the bills paid in order to get to the place where you want to be and reach your goals, you're going to
Yeah.
be doing a lot of things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And either you sulk or you laugh. You try to
Right.
find a laugh in it, and I've suffered from depression. I've been in like really dark times in my life, but laughter is really what gets you through. And sometimes it could be the most stupid thing ever. But if it's funny to you and it helps you get through the day, I think that's really something special.
Awesome. That's a great lesson. That's going to be the title of the podcast. Power of Laughter right there. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Right
100%.
Well, Jazzy, thank you so much for your time today. Seriously, I learned a lot, and I think you added a lot of value for anyone looking for a sense of direction. And being a young creative isn't easy, and yeah, I think you helped us out a lot today. But where can people go if they want to learn more about your work, anything you do? I'll see all your awesome creativity and designs and stuff like that led me to you in the first place.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. Like, I'm very I'm a very thankful person, I guess. I say thank you a lot. I think this is like the fourth time I told you thank you for having me.
Oh,
But thank you for
it's,
having me for the fifth time.
oh, thank you.
you
Mhm.
know. And I would love to come do this again. This is like I've done like live talks before with people. I've never done a podcast before.
Okay,
So I would love
that's
to do
what
it again.
yeah, I kind of get that a lot because I know designer. It's kind of I'm kind of get trying to reach out to designers and get this because this is something that like I would always this is something that I feel like I would listen to when I'm
Mhm.
either in a rut or just when I'm designing throughout the day. Just having people, inspiring and creative people, just talk about their projects, their stories and everything like that. That's really the inspiration for the show. And I think for people that are, like we talked about, kind of looking for that sense of direction, would be
Mhm.
really helpful. So, but tell us where we can find you and where people can learn more about you.
Yeah. My website is jazzyokami.com. That's JAZZYOKAMI.com. I'm on Instagram as well, jazzy_okami. I also have a gaming Instagram that I barely post on, but I like to live stream every once in a while on Twitch if you want to
Yeah.
find me there. And I'm also on TikTok a lot. So same thing, Jazzy Okami. Yeah. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah.